Everyone, it's your pal Patrick here. Since Dave is off on his little convention trip, I'll be the one filling in for this week's Dead Talk. So, with me is my awesome co-host, John.
Yeah, hey, how y'all doing today?
Very cool, very cool. And for today, we're going to be covering two of our favorite subjects, Mystery Science Theater and horror films. So, in particular, today we're going to be sharing some of our favorite horror-themed episodes of Mystery Science Theater 3000 in celebration of the newest season, season 13, being released last week in the Gizmoplex.
Yeah, and I'm sure we'll have plenty of thoughts about Mystery Science Theater in general when we get there. But if you ask me, Mystery Science Theater, bad horror movies are perfect for riffing in general. And they've covered so many movies, and I was looking through the list of horror themed movies they've covered. It's like, oh my god, it's amazing how many they've gone through.
Absolutely. It's just a very impressive list. And I have to say, there's some of the best, cheesiest horror films out there. Some of them just straight up goofy. Some of them like a little scary, like when you
Oh
really
yeah,
think about it in concept, but the execution may not have necessarily have been the best, if you know what I mean. But
yeah.
but they all
That's
have a sorry. Yep.
Oh, I was gonna say, like, that's kind of why we love Mystery Science Theater 3000, because it's taking bad art and making good comedy.
Exactly. Yeah, which is always near and dear to our hearts because, a good laugh is worth all the treasure in the world, if you ask me.
Yes, indeed.
All right. So before we get to that, we're going to cover some horror news, and then I will get to my segment of movies from the crypt, which will be our upcoming Blu-ray releases. So let's get into with our horror news topics. So first up, uh, the original Tales from the Crypt movie is celebrating its 50th anniversary.
Oh
Is it
wow.
this month? Yes. Yes.
Yeah. No, I
This
I am not as much a horror fan as you and Dave are, but even I've heard of Tales of the Crypt, and I didn't know it was that long ago. I occasionally forget it came out in the early 70s.
Actually, the original comics of Tales from the Crypt date back to the 50s.
Oh, okay.
This is the movie of Tales from the Crypt, which was
Okay.
adapted from EC Comics. So you're not 100% wrong. Just a few decades later, and
Okay.
then up in the late 89 is it 1990 is when Tales the more familiar Tales from the Crypt that we all know and love
Yeah,
as it
that's probably
happens to
what I
be.
was thinking of. Yeah.
Yeah, which is also a big favorite of mine, and one day we will also cover that as a topic on Dead Talk. So looking forward to that. So yeah, happy 50th anniversary Tales from the Crypt movie. So also celebrating its 100th his 100th birthday from March 1st is EC Comics founder William Gaines.
Oh, okay. Uh, isn't now you said this is the founding of DC Comics?
No. EC Comics.
Oh, EC. Okay.
Which is it? Whom is it? William Gaines. Was the man who brought us Tales from the Crypt,
Okay.
the Vault of Horror, shock suspense stories, weird science, and weird fantasy.
Okay. My apologies. I misheard you.
No worries. It's okay. But is it? But yeah, ironic though, since that also connects with our Tales from the Crypt movie, because
Mhm.
once again, several of those stories were directly adapted from his comics. So very awesome, and
Yeah.
William Gaines is definitely an incredible man. Very much is a firm advocate of freedom of speech, fighter of censorship, and just always loved being able to entertain and to push stories very much in his time. He was very much a pioneer, like in the
Yeah.
50s, in that. And also as a fun fact, was the original founder of Mad Magazine.
Oh, okay. Yeah, once again a magazine that I'm familiar with, if by nothing else other than reputation.
Ah,
And yeah, like I'm familiar with, and something similar with like the comics of like Tales of the Crypt and whatnot. Like you
mhm.
you don't get to be remembered 100 years later by putting out, well, unless you're Mystery Science Theater 3000. You don't, like, if you're consistently putting out bad stuff, like you're not going to be remembered.
Yeah, that is true. That is true.
Yeah, like I said, unless of course you're making fun of said schlock.
Yeah, that is true. Well, this isn't actually my next piece of news isn't schlock, as I thankfully, but something very interesting. Um, the German silent film Nosferatu: A Symphony of Horror celebrates its 100th anniversary this year, this month
Yeah,
actually.
yeah. No, I saw the I saw that a couple of days ago, and uh yeah, no, that's incredible. I want to say that was like one of the first Dracula movies, or at least vampire movies.
At the time, originally, the creators of Nosferatu, were vying for the rights of Bram Stoker's Dracula. However, though, they were not able to obtain the rights. So instead, this was actually their own quote unquote adaptation. Is it more or less just like an offset of that. So they couldn't
Okay,
use Dracula, so instead they used Count Orlok as their main um
okay,
pro, as a, protagonist or antagonist, depending on how you view it.
yeah,
And the major players of the original novel were changed in Nosferatu.
naturally,
However, certain liberties were also taken as a result, even though it did very much coincide very much with the original Bram Stoker Dracula
yeah,
novel, with one unique exception. Count Orlok actually is destroyed when the sunlight touches him, which actually helped
yeah,
us establish part of the vampire mythos of
yeah,
vampires, you know, perishing in sunlight. So I
yeah.
thought that was very interesting.
I didn't know that that's where that originated from specifically, and uh, I have not seen Nosferatu specifically, but there's two things that come to mind when I think of that. First off, there was an season, I forget which season, but there was an episode of SpongeBob where Nosferatu made an appearance at the very end of it.
Oh
And
yeah, I remember that.
yeah, and the other thing is that, and I don't know how true this is, so please forgive me if I'm out of my league on this one.
It's okay.
Um, uh, from what I understand, a good chunk of the of the, the copies of the film were destroyed intentionally, and miraculously, for some reason, at least one copy survived, and it's obviously still survived to this day.
Yes, you are correct about that. With some digging and research, that is true. Many of the original copies of Nosferatu were destroyed intentionally. However, though, very few copies did survive, and thankfully, because of that, we still have that film today, which also speaks a lot because many of the original silent films of that era are no longer available. Sadly,
Yeah,
many of them due to poor storage and record keeping, many of those films are lost to time, which will never be
yeah,
recovered. So
which is a shame. Like I think a lot of those films were filmed on a I think it was a form of silver nitrate,
yes,
and and as someone who works in the hazardous waste industry, has like silver nitrate is an oxidizer, which means that if in the event of a fire, it's going to provide its own oxygen.
that is correct. And thank you very much for that insight, John.
Yeah, one of the very few times that I can relate something to my job to one of these podcasts I do with you guys.
Very nice. Very cool.
No, I did not profile any silver nitrate today,
Okay. Well, that's good
but
to know.
yeah, like no one had to get rid of any silver nitrate. Though I did have to do some a thing of sodium nitrate, which has similar properties.
Indeed. Indeed. So, We happily wish Nosferatu a 100th anniversary. And if you want to learn a little bit more about Nosferatu, you can come on to on Halloween Year Round's blog, as Dave has actually provided a story coverage of Nosferatu and its 100th as a birthday. So definitely be sure to check it out, dear viewers. So moving on, speaking actually, ironically enough, transitioning from one Batman to another, metaphorically, we have a unique developing story that's been going on. In particular, Gotham PD has been put on hold, and now we are seeing that it's going to become an Arkham Asylum series. So that is it. So we're still getting information on that in terms of what's going on. We will continue to provide coverage of that, but if that is the case, this is very interesting because I don't think we've seen Arkham Asylum portrayed specifically in live action.
Yeah, I was gonna say that I know there's at least a couple of episodes that deal with Arkham Asylum in the animated series. Like there's specifically that one episode where Batman is put on trial in Arkham, which I have no idea. I still don't know how that plot even took place, but points aside.
That is true. But at the same time, though, you are right though. Not many adaptations. I mean, I know, for example, like in the comics, there is an Arkham Asylum, and also in the Arkham video games, especially in the very first Arkham Asylum game, we had a very deep lore as a dive into Arkham, as well as also its founder Amadeus Arkham,
Yeah,
which has been touched on in the is it in the new Batman film, and I have a very funny feeling that that is why they want to move from Gotham PD to Arkham Asylum as a result of that. As I know, there has been another Gotham series that has touched on a young Commissioner Gordon as a coming up. So
yeah.
you know, we'll just have to wait and see if this is, true or if it's still going to be reworked on another time. But it would be really cool to have like a horror themed as an Arkham Asylum series. I think it would absolutely be awesome.
And sort of piggybacking off of that note, it occurs to me that that final scene in the in the Batman, not the final scene specifically, but the one with the Joker, that possibly could have been a setup for Arkham or the Arkham show.
Yes, yes, you could be right about
Yeah,
that. There's
and
even
and
and there's also rumors going around too that Bane might actually have an appearance in a future
interesting,
Batman.
interesting.
As in the near the final scene, Batman had to use like a shot of what appeared to be adrenaline in order to get
Yeah, that's
himself
right.
back. However, the fans are speculating that that might not have been adrenaline, but instead the very same venom that Bane uses in order to keep himself juiced up in order
Yeah,
to
very possible.
become
Yeah,
powerful.
yeah. Now I've not made it a secret that I was not a particularly huge fan of that Joker scene in the Batman. I feel like the movie was really long, and that I felt like they could have cut it and not lost anything. But if they were setting up for this Arkham thing, it at least makes it a little bit more sense.
Yes, and I would definitely hope that might be the case. So fingers crossed on that one. It would be very interesting to see that. So yeah, because it's either going to be that or it might even be like more of an origin story of how Arkham Asylum was built, which I have a funny feeling that that is going to be the case as
Yeah,
as this new development is still going on. So we're not 100% sure if this is going to be an origin story of Arkham Asylum and the Arkham family who built it, or if it's going to be more of a present day Arkham story where we're going to see the various inmates as it going
yeah,
in and out and seeing how that develops with maybe some flashbacks to the founding of Arkham Asylum.
yeah.
We'll just have
Part
to
of me,
wait and see.
part of me thinks that could be interesting because I don't know I don't really know the full history behind Arkham Asylum, but it would be kind of interesting to see that whether or not it actually started out as a somewhat decent institution before devolving into what it is today. So
Yeah, that is true. So we'll just have to wait and see. All right, then we got to continue moving on. So next up, we have a Predator prequel movie
Hmm.
in the works called Prey, which is going to be set in the Great Plains in 1719.
Huh.
It's going to be coming to Hulu. However, though, the release date of it is still to be announced. But it is looking very interesting as the opening promo poster for it shows a Native American warrior as a woman who has the predator right behind her, and the
Yeah.
predator looks like he actually has like advanced technology with his laser sights. So this is going to be this could be very interesting, where we see like more like primal, like, more or less just that kind of like that kind of like advanced technology
Yeah.
is it versus more traditional as a traditional fighting instinct.
Part of me is wondering, since it's a prequel set, uh, well before even the French and Indian War, our technology obviously has progressed so much in the past 300 years. Uh, is it possible that this movie could be even if the Predator has modern technology, or maybe it's like in the very early stages of it, you know?
Hmm.
Like, so I am a little skeptical about, given the fact that it's in such an earlier time frame, but uh like I said, who knows? Maybe there would be like a technology discrepancy there, you know?
Yeah, and that would be interesting to see how they're going to handle that. Currently, it's still unknown at this time exactly like what the finer details are of this, as the story is also still developing. But suffice to say, I am genuinely curious. So fingers crossed that it will also be a good flick to watch. So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, so definitely stay tuned. Okay, up next, we have is it well, we got Valentine Bluffs. If you remember, now it's funny, like Dave and I have been talking about this for a while, but you're just kind of walking into this. So, but for anyone who may not know, Valentine Bluffs is a fan-made sequel to the original as a film of My Bloody Valentine, the 1981 as a film. And we had been following it for a while, and we promoted it as a periodically on our show. And we're very happy to say that their Indiegogo campaign was successful. They were able to get the money they needed to finish the post production of their film. So we're hoping to see that be finalized by the end of this year, and we'll definitely cover it further. I'm really looking forward to it myself. I definitely like seeing fan-made films, especially like ones where they really like decide to go that is just very true to the original spirit of the films that they do. So I look forward to it.
Yeah, and like I said earlier, you guys are obviously the bigger horror fans than me. But I can absolutely respect fan projects, and not only that, but fan projects that are successful. Uh, I know on my end that I'm a fan of the Earthbound/Mother series, and the third game in that series, Never Left Japan. It has a very well-known fan translation, so I can totally get that and get that feeling of having a fan project go over that well.
Yeah, that's true. Very true, my friend. Well, speaking of other fan-backed projects too, Rifftrax is doing a Kickstarter campaign for their upcoming Rifftrax Live 2022 event, The Return of Swamp Thing.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah, so currently that is still going on. Funding for it has been going very well. So if you want to continue to support, ironically enough, one of the original uh, hosts of the show, yeah, in this case, Mike? Is it Mike Nelson? who currently runs is it Rifftrax along with Bill Corbett and is it Kevin Murphy? Then definitely give those guys a big a big thanks. Help to support them, and yeah, I'm personally looking forward to it myself. I love Rifftrax. I love Rifftrax live, and it's just always awesome to see more like MST and MST 3000 inspired content. So you know, let's keep that train rolling.
Yeah, I had the opportunity to see Rifftrax live a couple of years ago, and I'm happy to say that those guys are just as good live as they are pre-recorded, basically on the show. But so
Oh, that's awesome. That is
yeah,
very awesome. So yeah.
I think it was the night where they actually had some of the people like Joel and Mary Jo Peel on as well. So
Oh, the reunion special.
yeah, I think that's what I don't remember. Like I Joel might not have been there, but I do remember Mary Jo Peel being there.
Okay. Yeah, I know they've done they've done quite a few of them, so I'd have to look
Yeah.
at that myself. I mean, I've seen, for example, the Christmas one, and I've also
Mhm.
seen them riffing on Jack the Giant Killer, a personal favorite of mine, and let's see what else the I know they did a horror themed one too. I am going to eventually see the Hobgoblins
Yeah, yeah.
live, but yeah, but yeah, like
Uh,
that.
as a the my favorite the night I went, they did a bunch of shorts, and my favorite short they did that night was called "Shake Hands with Danger," and
Oh, with the
uh
live electrical wire.
yeah,
Yeah,
it was like construction equipment, and like
yeah.
that one for me it was hilarious because like I said, I work in the hazardous waste industry. Like I just have an office job now, but before I got my office job I was actually going out to different companies. I have seen all of those safety videos. They're all terrible. And I think it was Bill Corbett who said this, like he did say like, now we should warn you, this has blood in it, but it's a safety video from the 70s, so take that for what you will.
Indeed, indeed. Well, our next piece of news is a little bit sad. As Michael, as a Ryan, as a who played the character of as a Burke Devlin in the 1960s Gothic soap opera Dark Shadows, has sadly passed away at the age of
Hmm.
88.
Oh, that's sad.
It is, sir, as I said. He also played Dr. Terrence Wynn in Halloween: The Curse of Michael Myers as well. So
Okay.
he's done a few he's done a few horror projects under his belt.
Yes.
So it is genuinely sad that he is no longer with us, but he will be remembered in his performance as Burke Devon in Dark Shadows, as that's also a very beloved as a series by many horror fans across the world.
Yes.
Okay, then. Next up is a bit more of a goofier story. In this case, a trailer just dropped for the Amityville Horror, where they will be going to space.
I thought that was an Onion article.
No, apparently it's a real trailer, and it just dropped recently. And I personally can't believe it myself. Like
I mean,
I didn't
I
think
mean,
they were gonna go that route, but okay.
let's be fair. Like I've not kept up with the Fast and Furious franchise, but apparently the latest movie also went to space, so why
And
not Amityville Horror?
actually, I can attest to that. I did see the latest Fast and the Furious, so yeah, I couldn't believe it myself. But there you go,
It's all about family.
indeed. And for our last piece of news, we also have another trailer announcement too of a Vampire Shock crossover called Sharkula. Yes, we have not only jumped the shark, but it is the very shark
Are
that it's based on.
are these people intentionally trying to make Mystery Science Theater 3000 material?
You know what? At this point, they might be. They
Because
might be fans that do
because
that kind of thing.
you can't just intentionally make riffing material. The way I see it, you have to have like something that you earnestly intend to make, and then it flops.
Yeah, that's true. That's certainly true. But yeah, who knows about that? But it definitely looked like from the trailer alone, it just looked good schlocky fun. So I might give it a chance personally. I want to see like how bad it gets, and who knows, maybe we'll actually riff it or something like that. I bet you that would be a fun idea.
Yeah, yeah, no, I'm personally always up for making fun of bad movies.
Absolutely. Very good. All right, so that ends our horror news topics for today. Up next, we now have our movies from the Crypt segment. So let me get a little bit into character. Well then, hello, as a you horror hounds and media monsters out there. Gather around as at the film graveyard as I dig up some tasty new releases in our Blu-ray release segment. Movies from the Crypt. As you can tell, I'm a big fan of the Crypt Keeper. Or in this case, I'm your, as a pal, the movie keeper.
The Movie Keeper, I like it.
Thank you. So, just released recently on Blu-ray is the 2018 horror comedy Bigfoot is a creature feature. Cherokee Creek is a featuring a Bigfoot terrorizing a bachelor party. So be sure to check out your local or online movie shop. Is it for a loving and 80s throwback, as it sure is to delight as well as terrify.
Awesome.
Yes, very much so. Also, in terms of the classic fronts, work is a coming soon to 3D is a 3D Blu-ray from KL Studio Classics is The Mad Magician from 1954, starring Vincent Price, one of my favorite as a horror actors, along with Mary Murphy and Eva Garber. The release will include both a 3D and a 2D version of the film on so that's very cool. So if
Yeah,
you have 3D glasses, that's great. If not,
I
that works too.
I occasionally forget that the 3D fad goes back that far.
Yes, it does. Yes, 3D and horror definitely go hand in hand very well, along with a lot of other classic gimmicks like Presto from William Castle, which is who also pioneered that kind of technology. No release date has been announced yet, but we will keep you posted on when the Mad Magician will make his stage debut. Next, coming to Blu-ray on May 10th from Shudder and RLJE Films is Behind the Monsters Season 1. And from its press release, quote, examines the horror icons who have broken free of the confines of the film from which they were born and become the stuff of legend. So this is a documentary style series of the various horror movie monsters that we love.
That could be very interesting. Because when you stop to think about it, there are a lot of horror monsters or classic movie monsters that really go back a long ways. Vampires obviously have Dracula. Frankenstein was written by Mary Shelley back in the 1800s. There's the concept of the Wild Hunt, all that stuff. So they got a lot of ground to cover. So I think that could be very interesting.
Yes, I believe so too, and hopefully we'll definitely see some good stuff from it. So stay tuned for that one. Also, as a quick undead update, the upcoming Scream Factory release of Wes Anderson's, or actually, no, not Wes Anderson. I'm sorry. I mean Wes Craven. Big difference
Big
from
difference, yes, very big difference.
very big difference from classical is it whimsy to is a straight up horror as a horror and shock. Although there is a Wes Anderson inspired SNL short, which actually does have it framed as a horror movie, and it is very cleverly done. So uh, it's always good to see people try out unique ideas for that.
Yeah.
But I digress though. Cursed from 2005. Original date was back in April. However, though, it has now been bumped up to May 10th. So all you werewolf lovers out there are going to have to wait a little longer, or is it longer to enjoy this Wes Craven classic, but stay tuned for that. But speaking of werewolf films, The Cursed the 2021 will be released on May 10th on Blu-ray as well. So that should be a howlingly as a uh, awesome debut as a Bow film.
Pun.
So yes, as a the moon makes me hungry for everything.
No, if you haven't, if you as a side note, if you haven't looked into the history of werewolves and the werewolf curses, that is a really confusing history. It's like it is a curse of Satanism. It's not a curse of Satanism or whatever. It's really confusing.
Yeah, there's a lot of werewolf lore and just lore of men men and women turning into beasts. Not just in Europe, but all over the world. There's all
Yeah,
kinds of were creatures, were jaguars, were panthers, were hyenas.
yeah.
Um,
This is
uh,
this may be why I like the Dresden Files so much. The book series, like every myth in that series is true.
ooh, very cool.
Yeah, like
So,
they have three different types of vampires.
ooh, nice.
Yeah, they got actually in universe. Literally, Dracula was written as an expose on the Black Court specifically.
Oh, wow. Very
Yeah,
fascinating.
yeah.
Very cool. All right. So yeah, be sure to check out Cursed. The is it Wes Craven's is it from Wes Craven? The other Cursed from 2021 and the Dresden Files if you're all curious.
It's a book series. It would take me far too long to explain. There are horror elements. It's like horror adjacent, I would say. Like it's like urban fantasy, mystery, uh, horror. Like it follow basically the main character is the only private detective wizard in Chicago.
Ah, all righty then. Well, thanks for letting us know about that. And that's my report for now, you groovy ghoulies. I'm slamming the movie Crypt shut. Until next time. So thank you all for tuning in. And now for the main event, what you've all been waiting for, what a lot of us have been waiting for is it for the last few years, the return of Mystery Science Theater 3000. And for us, we're going to be sharing some of our favorite episodes of Mystery Science Theater 3000 along the lines of the horror genre. So what is it? So which one do we have to talk about? We have quite a few of our favorites to share.
Oh yeah, no, we talked about this for a for quite for not quite a while, but like we were sort of throwing back and forth
Mhm.
uh different ideas, and I mean, where do you start? Like even if you count just the original 10 season run, that was like 200 episodes.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, and I mean the very first episode of Mystery Science Theater 3000, like at least on Comedy Central, like when it went national, was The Crawling Eye.
Yes.
And yeah, and like I don't know what the first episode when it was like only a local on the local station was, but like they literally started out with a horror movie.
That's true, and they definitely have continued that tradition ever since. And we're just really happy to, share that kind of stuff with you, guys and gals out there, because, like I said, we're big fans of Mystery Science Theater, and we definitely want to share our love for the horror stuff. So let's um, let's select one from the list. How about the undead?
Okay, yeah, and this is one that I forgot that I think I actually did watch at some point. I think it was also featured on an episode of Svengoolie as well.
Yes, I believe you're right.
And I have been watching Svengoolie for far less time than I have Mystery Science Theater. So, but
Well, for me personally, like I love a good Roger Corman film, and this is definitely like one of his cheesiest, which I absolutely
yeah,
love. I mean, the premise is ultimately a woman who is who goes into a hypnotic trance by her psychologist in order to remember a regressed past life in which she is a witch or a woman accused of witchcraft who must be burned at the stake.
Yeah. Yeah, this is like sort of the standard caliber of movies you can expect on Mystery Science Theater. Like,
Yes.
when did this movie come out? Did it come out? I want to say it came out in like the 50s, 60s.
I believe, yeah, you're right. It would be roughly 50s, 60s. It's in black, it's in black and white.
Yeah.
It's definitely it's a very goofy film. What is it with some very memorable lines from Mystery Science Theater, including one of the main characters actually dressing up as a knight and putting on
Yes.
a helmet and then saying, "There," as a with is it with Mike in the background saying, "There, I hope I don't look stupid in this."
And the amount of times they've like, oh, Mike, the amount of times you guys have looked stupid.
Yeah, I just really love that one. It's just like good cheesy fun. It's like I said,
And
it's basically like this, it turns out that the psychologist is really like the devil, and he's trying to like acquire her, acquire
yeah,
her soul and the guy's soul. So like classic Faustian dealings.
yeah, and this movie actually provided the name of a name of a particular trope. Uh, at one point, Crow remarks when he sees an imp. That's some good old fashioned nightmare fuel.
Yes, yes. Oh, that
And
guy
like
who
that,
played the imp.
I know there's like another movie they riffed where they used a similar line, but like if you're familiar with tropes at all, you know exactly what I mean when I say nightmare fuel.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. Oh yeah, and the way he would be bouncing like throughout the movie too.
Yeah.
Yes, that was funny. Yeah, especially when he's like hee hee as he's like rubbing his hands like evilly as he's trying to like capture her. I find Greg, I think she even turns into a cat at one point. I think she
I
does.
think you might be right. Yeah, like this whole movie is just so bizarre that you can't. It's like a train wreck. You can't really take your eyes off. I mean, you explained it in the premise. The whole thing is that you have a lady going into a psychiatrist to put her under a trance to have memories come up of a past life where she's a witch burned at the stake, and that whole thing is just kind of ridiculous.
Absolutely. And that's what I love about it too. And there's just so much like, great riffing material for that.
Yeah.
So speaking of great riffing material, I'll actually reference an episode that you really like, Ega.
Yes. Geez. The the like I don't know I don't know how familiar you are with this movie, but the audience I should say. Like I know you're familiar, but
Oh yeah, definitely. I'm familiar with
yeah,
this one.
like yeah. So I'm just digging myself a hole deeper here, uh, but yeah, no. The premise of this movie is basically that a caveman was frozen solid and has thawed out and is basically started a rampage in modern times, or at
Yeah.
least early the 60s or whenever that movie takes place.
Yeah, I believe that is a 60s film for sure. Yeah, because it is in color. Definitely some of the cars is in it. Um, I believe it also takes place like in Vegas, if I'm correct. Because I know like at the
Wouldn't surprise me.
yeah, because I mean out in the desert and whatnot. And what I do know in particular is for example the gas station attendant. He has like the weirdest face. Like is it like basically
Yeah.
like everyone on is it on the Saturday Life is like "Eee! Stop smiling like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, now, if you ask me, one of the things that this movie is most the movie itself, not the episode, but the movie is most infamous for is that there is a very poorly dubbed line at some point in it that's just that where a guy just says, "Watch out for snakes,"
Yes, you're
Yeah.
right.
and I don't know why that particular cracks me up. Maybe just because it's so out of place with the rest of the movie, and they actually like the MST3K crew actually references that uses that specific line in a future episode. I think it might have been like the very next one. Mitchell.
Yes. Yes, I believe you are right, is right about that. And funny you should mention about the don't watch out for snakes line because there is an actual sticker on is it on the Gizmoplex panel in the newest episode of Mystery Science Theater, Santo in the Treasure of Dracula, where it actually says "Watch out for snakes," and I'm like, wow, that's a really cool reference there. I like
Yeah, no,
that.
that's a great reference. It's very appropriate considering that uh, that how much work Joel himself has put into the new seasons.
Yes, absolutely. And yeah, I've met Joel Hodgson personally myself. I love the guy. Very funny, very humble. Just really loves what he does. Like it was just like an idea that just, like out of him trying to like, make it in Hollywood, didn't quite work out, but he found a way. He found his niche
Yeah.
and, he
Now,
just kept it growing to the point where like we have a term for
the
Mystery Science
Gizmoplex.
Theater. Yes, yeah, Gizmoplex, Misties, which is fans
Yeah.
of Mystery Science Theater for those who don't know, and of course for those who do know, well, as a welcome to Dead Talk, and hope we can entertain you with with some good horror themed content. So
Now, now the real question is, everyone has sort of like their favorite doctor from Doctor Who. Who is it? Who is your mad scientist? Who's your mad?
oh my mad. Oh,
Yeah.
definitely Dr. Forrester. Definitely
Yeah. No,
the original. Like you
I
can't
agree.
beat Dr. Forrester.
Yeah, Dr. Forrester and TV's Frank.
Yes. Oh
Yep.
yeah, the original Mads. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
I have the trope page for the recap for EGA, and when he introduced the movie, Dr. Forrester says, "Your movie today, EGA, has got Richard Keel and not much else."
Very true. Especially like all the weird like totems and whatnot as like in the opening credits for EGA looks really weird. And you
Yeah.
just keep hearing the words EGA.
Hey,
Like,
it's categories.
yes, that's right. Yeah, exactly. Just crazy
Yeah.
stuff. So then let's continue with another favorite of ours. And actually definitely a big favorite of mine, The Horror of Party Beach.
Yes. This is another one that I'm not super familiar with.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, so yeah, like so basically you're actually I can definitely give a big rundown on this one. Basically, imagine beach blanket bingo is a creature from the Black Lagoon. That's essentially what it is, but done very, very poorly.
Now I have not seen Beach Blanket Bingo, but I am very familiar with that movie, and I know just how batshit it gets at the very end there.
Yeah, and ultimately like that's kind of the same thing with the Horror Party Beach. It just starts out as just, a bunch of teens like, gathered together like, on this beach dancing really, really badly to I believe it's the Deltones if I'm correct. I believe and they are and they was that was the original group too, is it too?
Hmm.
Yeah, let me just double check that really quick. But yeah, I am very certain it was the Deltones.
Okay. Uh, yeah, the like I never really knew until a couple of months ago. I want to say just how big some of those beach party movies were back in the 50s and 60s and 70s. Like that was a whole thing, and that just kind of fell by the wayside after a while, I guess, because like I don't know about you, but I was not familiar with them.
Oh yeah, like especially from like, since I do love watching like older films, like that was a very popular thing of its time, especially in the 60s was the beach is a beach is a theme. And not just that, but even for horror movies too, like Jaws, for example, like
Yeah,
in the 70s, which actually more than likely would have like been a unique callback to it, even though it was based on a novel. But I could definitely see that being an inspiration. Is it for
yeah.
it?
I can also see Jaws kind of killing off the beach party movie.
Yeah, that's true too. And here was the group, the Dell Airs.
Okay.
They were a real rock and roll group, which were hired for the movie, and they are actually like on the beach, playing like some of their various songs, including one of my favorites, the Zombie Stomp. And I especially love in the beginning of the part of that song where it's like, ah, And Mike saying, "My skull."
And just I'm just like kind of going over a thing here on my end, but I gotta watch this movie because Crow has the absolutely incredible riff of first you deny the grief, then party.
Yes, that is true. That is very true. And of course, it also gave us an excellent Mystery Science Theater as a trope with the Sodium song,
Oh,
which
okay, yeah, yeah,
which which was a very important plot as a plot device because the creatures that attack the teens in the movie could only be destroyed by sodium, not salt water, mind you, sodium. So pure sodium is what actually
I mean,
kills them.
I mean, like you could probably achieve the same effect by chucking sodium into the ocean. So,
But weirdly enough, you're not that far off because by the end of the movie, that is literally what they're doing. They're literally chucking like gobs of sodium at the creatures, and they're exploding.
yeah. Well, chemistry wise, like it throws sodium in water, it blows up.
Yeah, that's true. But it is very funny. And of course, every time that one teen kid is like, driving like, to and from like getting the sodium, you could hear as a Tom Servo crying out, "Sodium, sodium. Yeah, we need that sodium, baby." But it's just a personal favorite of mine, like very classic, like, monster horror movie, like, of course, like every kind of like teen trope there is, like I said, beach fight, is it like in a dormitory, just as a partying, and that is playing pranks on each other, and then of course the monsters like coming in and attacking.
Yeah,
Of course, the teens is in the car who get lost on the road, who just so happen to wind up where the monsters are.
just checking off all the boxes here.
Absolutely. So yeah, it's just a personal favorite of mine.
Yeah,
I
but
love it.
this is kind of what I was going back to what I was saying earlier. Like, you can't manufacture a good bad movie. Like, you have to do the film earnestly.
Very true. And I think that's why I really love that. Well, some of these movies, like I know some of these movies, like legitimately were trying to do their best.
Oh yeah,
At the same
definitely.
time, but at the same time, though, also some of these movies, they're just doing it for a cash grab, or they're trying to capitalize on what the trends are at the time, because that's what
Oh, certainly.
many of these films do. I mean, heck, there was even is it one Mystery Science Theater movie which originally was a TV pilot that was never picked up.
Yeah, actually, that like one of my personal favorite episodes. I don't think this counts as a horror episode, but Time of the Apes was originally a Japanese TV show that I think it was Sandy Frank decided it would be just an excellent idea to chop it up into basically a 90, not even a 90-minute movie. Like
Yes.
I think it had like 20 episodes, and like
Yeah.
how Sandy Frank thought it would be a good idea to chop that much material into like a less than 90-minute movie. I will never understand.
Well, actually, I'll consider like Time of the Apes like a horror adjacent film, as it basically plays on the idea of like three party members who are like transported to a time that is not their own and escaping like the horror of apes, like is it
Yeah,
like running the world. So I could definitely see it in like horror, at least somewhat horror adjacent as a territory,
yeah. Just
very
just
much
don't be
akin
a
to like to Planet of the Apes, but
yeah,
done really, really goofy.
yeah. Just don't be like Johnny.
Yeah,
Actually
that
care. Like just make sure you actually care. Don't be like Johnny.
yes, that is true. I don't care.
I think he technically only says that like once in the entire movie. And and
Yeah,
then
I believe you're right.
and then like of course Joel and the boss just like run with it.
Yeah, that's true. Although, ironically enough, Sandy Frank would also be a producer for several other horror, is it like monster themed episodes,
Yes,
including the
yes,
Gamera movies. So
yes.
that actually would tie in with that, and like Gamera is like definitely a big part of Mystery Science Theater.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, I didn't choose any of the Godzilla slash Ghidorah movies when we were talking about this, but they are definitely worthy contenders here.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, as again, I mean, there's like a lot of like giant monster was it monster movies out there, but we're was it like we were looking for more horror theme, more horror
Oh
esque,
yeah.
and I don't think you can get any more horror esque than one particular movie as a monster movie, Earth versus the spider.
Oh
Def,
God.
Definitely a good cheesy was a cheesy one of a
And
giant spider escaping a cave and like terrorizing a small town.
you could tell just from just from the title that this is going to be a it's gonna be a ride. And uh part of this one, at least the movie itself, kind of reminded me of a I think it was a Godzilla movie that was uh shot with both an English crew and a Japanese crew.
Yes, I
and
believe you're right.
they were like excavating and they find Godzilla. So that at least that's overall like broad strokes what this movie reminds me of,
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true. I just once
which
again
is
love
a
like
which I think is another that episode that movie was also featured on Sven Gulli.
yeah, I believe you're right. And once again, like I just love a good giant monster movie. I've always enjoyed those myself, like especially like when you have like, the giant monster like, terrorizing a town and then of course the military has to come in and shooting at them.
Yeah,
It's like, "Oh no, our weapons
the,
are useless. Like how can we possibly stop it?" And of course it's always like the one teen kid or like this one little kid who's like, "Wait a minute. I think I know." Is it no? And like because they reference like, like a science project they did done
yeah,
is it? And it's like, oh, that's how we can destroy the monster. So
yeah,
they try it out, and and it works.
and appropriately enough, this movie had Burt I. Gordon as a as one of the main people involved, and it's appropriate because his initials are big,
Yes,
BIG. Like, and really, who else can you have but the guy whose initials are big for a giant monster movie?
absolutely. Oh yeah, Bird Eye Gordon is very much attached to the hip with Mystery Science Theater. He's with some excellent is it, movies, including The Tormented too.
Yeah,
Not a giant monster movie, but a very spooky uh, is it monster or no, I'm not. It's not once again. Although technically, she could be considered as a monster in the way she haunts the very guy that is it that is it that he is it that
yeah,
murders her, being thrown off from the top of a lighthouse and then coming in saying "You killed me" with some of the cheesiest special effects I think I've ever seen. Like her severed head, like is it like like being held aloft by the guy and he's like no I didn't love you it was only a one-time thing and just like every kind of like classic trope of course like the little girl finding out like is it like inexplicably was it when of course the guy tries to silence like another man who's like yeah I think I know what happened to that girl well maybe you need to pay me to stop running my mouth if you know what I mean it's just like really classic, like like ghost
yeah,
haunting, and just once again, Bird Eye Gordon like delivers on that one. I
yeah.
think oh I think he also did like the Amazing Colossal Man too. I think
I
he
think he did. Yeah, and that's another one that I really like. Uh, Once again, like if you're gonna have anyone do giant creature movies, like you gotta have the guy whose initials are shortened down to big.
yeah absolutely, and yeah actually you know what I'm gonna add that one to the list like as an honorary because like the Amazing
Yeah,
Colossal Man was a big first was a big first for a lot of things for Mystery Science Theater, including the introduction of Joel as a not I'm sorry, not Joel. It was Mike Nelson as
oh yes,
as the giant, and also of course Joel giving probably the most stirring and emotional scenes I've seen of any Mystery Science Theater of his career. When he reenacts Glenn's struggle as he becomes more gigantic? Is it what kind of a sin was one man's lifetime have in order to become this huge? Oh, oh, while the
you know,
bots
it,
in
like
the background.
the Amazing Colossal Man, like it's incredible to watch that movie and then go and watch something like The Incredible Shrinking Man,
Yes.
because that movie actually, The Incredible Shrinking Man, if you ask me, actually still holds up pretty well.
Yes, very much so. It has always been an interesting one too. I will definitely give you that one because the Incredible Shrinking Man like took itself more seriously and also had like larger themes involved too, which I did very much was surprised with, especially by the very end, which he
Yeah,
ultimately confines to his fate that he will just continue as a shrink as a downward forever,
and
but he accepts that fate and he braves it, which is
yeah,
very inspiring.
yeah, and not only that, but like I think the effects overall just hold up really well.
Very true. Very true. Whereas the amazing Colossal Man, not as much, sadly.
Exactly,
I'm
exactly.
and trust me, I've seen like Attack of the 50-Foot Woman myself, and they had some pretty cheesy effects. Some interesting
Yeah,
ones, like a giant plaster hand coming out, but yeah, it's pretty goofy. And a shame that Mystery Science Theater never had a chance to riff that, but you never know, maybe in the
yeah,
future.
maybe. I
But
mean they've 200 episodes in the classic series. Like another like 20 from Netflix, plus however many we're getting from the Gizmoplex. Like,
yeah, that's true. I mean, who knows? Like maybe there'll be like more reptilicuses and whatnot, which also was a nice introduction.
yeah, no, I
Yeah,
agree. I think like for a revival series, like I think you have to have a giant monster feature as the first episode of your revival.
that is true.
Yeah, though if you ask me, my personal favorite episode of the original revival season, season 11,
Mhm.
my personal favorite might be Cry Wilderness.
Yeah, also a good creature feature. I definitely enjoyed that one myself. Very funny. I also love Avalanche too, although not really
Yes.
horror related, but a good natural disaster film. I definitely
Okay.
like it. Definitely felt like classic Mystery Science Theater.
Well, if you insist. Wilderness.
Well, speaking of other various wilderness films that we could speak of, how about I Was a Teenage Werewolf?
Yes.
Because
Yes.
we definitely need to have a werewolf movie like somewhere on this
Oh
list.
yeah.
And you can't and one of a teen like running into the woods and randomly bumping into people
Hmm.
like being on like the wrong side of the tracks and just as a how like ornery he gets, and it's like, no, there's something wrong with that boy. As a boy, is like, we shouldn't have her. Is it have him dating our daughter? Oh no, is it dear? He's just fine. He's a little hairy, but he's fine.
Uh,
It's just a really goofy
yeah.
teen like drama. What just so happens that the kid becomes a werewolf and ultimately terrorizes like the town, and
Yeah.
then all
Like
and then gets chased out.
the truth is, I like Tony a lot. Why?
Yeah, he was pretty unlikable. Especially
Yeah.
it was also weird too, like just seeing all the especially like all the musical interludes, and it's like, so this is what people were this is how people tried to keep themselves entertained until television was invented.
Like, the whole thing about the guy being unlikable kind of reminds me of a laser blast.
Oh
Like,
yeah, oh yeah, yeah. That's a
yeah,
good and a good alien as a film. And actually, I would even consider that horror adjacent
yeah,
too, because he
like
ultimately becomes a zombie by the end of it.
very, very true. And of course, that movie changes your perception of Monday Night Football forever.
Yeah, that's true. Very, very true. So let
I'm just worried that you won't be ready for some football.
yeah, sadly not. But you know what though? Speaking of what I mentioned earlier then about zombies, Zombie Nightmare.
Yes, one
Straight
of
up horror movie. Straight up horror is a horror movie in the best
horror.
sense.
Yeah,
Oh, it's a
yeah, no, one of my personal favorites as well. Like,
same
if for
here.
nothing, if for nothing else, then it has TV's Adam West in it,
Absolutely. And
milking
I
every scene.
yes. And also like some interesting behind the scenes on that one too. Originally, like certain lines that he had were badly recorded or not even recorded at all, as some of it was some of the film footage of that was lost.
Yeah.
So because of that, like some of the scenes where he's more hammier, those were unintentional. So
Oh.
due to what was going on behind the scenes. So like he was still serious about doing the movie the way he did it, even though the movie itself isn't great, but he still was as just as professional as say like
Yeah,
Vincent Price doing The Tingler, which that is a goofy horror movie, but is a very
he
campy, but I really love it myself. And you can tell Vincent Price is very stoic, taking it very seriously. Same thing with Adam
yeah
West in Zombie
took
Nightmare.
took the bad film seriously.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and what another thing that's always stuck about the movie to me is that somehow they managed to get Ace of Spades in there, like over the
Yeah.
credits. I've never understood how they managed to do that.
Yeah, like, and not just them, just like a lot of like hardcore heavy metal as an album bands were also included. They must have like someone like in that production team must have been friends with like other people that they were able to license the music. I mean, like that's like the only way I can think about it.
Yeah,
Either that or
and
that's where the majority of the budget went, and then everything else had to be like second hand.
yeah, that's kind of what I thought too. And actually, as I was going through this thing here, and I forgot about this, but Adam West actually introduced Zombie Nightmare for its Mystery Science Theater debut during Turkey Day.
That is right. You're right. And actually, from what I've read too, like Adam West, while that was the low point in his career, when the '89 Batman film was in development, a lot of people were petitioning that he would get the role, and that's when he started to go to comic book conventions
Yeah,
because originally he flat out didn't want to have anything to do with Batman after the '60s show, like after like a long period of
yeah,
like being typecast because of his role with Batman. But then when he started doing the convention circuit and he started to see like so many people like really like like still had fond memories of him, like loved his
yeah,
performance and they were and he was like, you know what? I should give this a second chance. And that's what ultimately did it. And that's probably why, like, when it came to Mystery Science Theater, he was more than likely happy to do it because like he knew it was a
yeah,
silly movie, but at the same time, the fact that he did that for Turkey Day, that he like dressed up as a chef, like serving up some of the cheesiest as a gourmet fromages as a around, it's just awesome, and that's why I just love him so much
yeah.
as an actor.
And for those of you who are not familiar, Turkey Day is a fine Mystery Science Theater tradition where they have a marathon of Mystery Science Theater episodes right in a row on Thanksgiving. It's actually, I think the show originally aired. I think they did like 3 episodes when they were at KTMA. But yeah, like I said, it's a well known Mystery Science Theater tradition.
Yes, very much so, and because they are introducing the various turkeys of
Yeah,
their selection, which is always wonderful. So yes, Zombie Nightmare, very fun. Was a zombie movie to watch. Also, was during that time period of the '90s where like zombie and voodoo stuff was very popular, especially the
yes,
voodoo stuff. I mean, it's like Mystery Science Theater is like has it had like a voodoo segment for Zombie
I
Nightmare,
remember that. Yeah,
and they also and of course Tales from the Crypt also had a voodoo centric episode, which had Whoopi Goldberg in it.
oh wow,
Yeah, which was very
yeah,
surprising, but very interesting to see. And yeah, yeah, it was just like during that time, like early the mid '90s, where like voodoo was a very big thing, like even in various cartoons too. Like,
yeah. That's something I occasionally forget. And if I
oh
remember that particular voodoo segment on MST3K, like they like Mike and the bots decide, we're not going to use this for evil. We're just going to like go out and do some good in the world.
yeah, I thought that was a cool idea. I like how they did a twist on that. That was
Yeah,
neat. I really did like that too. And oh yeah, Beetlejuice. That was also another with
yes,
voodoo elements as well. Especially like when Beetlejuice's head as it gets shrunken down. It's like, hey,
yeah,
hey, what out? Ah! Which is ironic because once again, it's Michael Keaton, who
yeah,
was also Batman, who is a who is a who's a who is a who is a whom has the correct connection with Adam West because they were petitioning Adam West to be in Tim Burton's Batman. So
attention Kmart shoppers.
6 degrees of Adam
Kevin
West
Bacon.
right there.
Yes.
So yeah, that's also good. And So yeah, so from bats to spiders, we also had the horror of Island. Uh,
Yes,
like near the end of Mystery Science Theater's original run with us, I think season 10 is it 10 if I'm correct. And a
9 or
really
10.
yeah,
Yeah,
and it's a and trust me, it's like a really, really, really goofy horror themed one of a bunch of beautiful models who get shipwrecked on a on a desert island or allegedly a desert island with
yeah,
is it with their agent who's like this sleazy guy who's basically just hiring them because they're very beautiful and and he's just trying to make his business a big success. But then of course he is it gets bitten by a spider on the island and then he becomes this really goofy tarantula faced
yeah.
monster.
Yeah, no, like the description of that movie, like at least the beginning, always reminds me of the poster of another movie that we definitely have on our list. Uh, that I'm sure we'll get to momentarily. So
Yes. Oh yeah, absolutely. Because as a Tom Servo put it very well, the horror of Spider Island. That was the best running joke in that whole episode. Just the drama of it while they're just doing like when when the models are just just doing regular like household chores and just like cleaning up like the hut that they stumble across and it's just the horror of Spider Island.
appropriate for a cheesy knockoff of the island of Dr. Moreau.
Yeah,
And
actually, in a weird way, you're right. It is.
yeah,
Yeah,
that I'm and actually looking up here that Horror of Spider Island was there were only 13 episodes in season 10, and the Horror of Spider Island was episode number 11. So literally right at the very tail end of the original series.
yep. There you go. There you go. So let's see then from the other is it from the horror of Spider Island to the Deadly Mantis.
Hmm.
One that I'm not as familiar with, but I do remember it does involve a giant mantis like up in the Arctic.
Yeah, no, I'm also not quite as familiar with this one as you are. Like, I'm sure I've seen it at some point, but it's been a hot minute since I've seen it.
But I do know there are some various bug themed tropes in it that have definitely stuck around for quite some time.
Yeah,
And definitely ones that are very enjoyable as a whole. I'm sure I can find one quote from the Deadly Mantis that we can talk
uh,
about.
do you know how to drive? That's exactly what I was wondering.
Yes. Yeah, definitely callbacks to Gamera and the Starfighters as well. And let's see. And I also believe that it also had the honor of oh yeah, that's right. Oh yeah, for every action, there is a Jackson with Action Jackson from 1988.
It sounds like that sounds like the name of a GI Joe reject.
Yeah, that does sound it. So yeah, from bugs, we'll then journey to the Yucca Flats to visit the beast of Yucca Flats.
Yeah, yeah, one of my favorite movies because like this is the this if you ask me, this movie is basically just a big nothing burger.
Yeah,
Like there's nothing here, but that's kind of why it's endearing, just because it's so stupid.
yeah. And I'm going to say this as well. Like a lot, and I actually am in agreement with certain people on this one. Like, like Ed Wood gets a lot of flack for Plan 9 from Outer Space, but at least there were things going on in that movie. They
Yeah,
were stupid and nonsensical, but at least there was enough going on that you could still be entertained, even to the point with Mike. Is it Mike? Is it Mike and the crew riffing on that in one of their live performances, and it's very enjoyable. Ironically enough, also having Tor Johnson in
yeah,
it as the is it police detective, is it who would just be like knock around a little, like the way he would have that weird thick European accent. It was just very unusual. It was very unusual, but but you know what though? At least there were things going on in that movie, and it's entertaining enough to continue to make fun of it. Whereas the Beast of Yucca Flats, as you just said, nothing burger. There is really nothing going on, and Tor Johnson has like like the acting
And
appeal of a piece of wood.
and,
I mean, there's no
and
other
but
way I can say it.
but it does provide some good riffing material. Like at one point, I think the narrator of the movie says something along the lines of "flag on the moon. How did it get there?" And Mike just so eloquently points out, these are just random sentences, folks.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, and one thing I forgot about this, like I said, I enjoy this one just because like I realize it's just so nonsensical, but uh I forgot about this, but until I looked it up. But this movie, or this episode, actually has two shorts in front of the movie.
Yeah, that's how
Yeah,
short it
like
is.
yeah, if you're not familiar with Mystery Science Theater, if the main movie was not long enough to fill an entire episode, they would put a short film in front of it and riff that. The Beast of Yucca Flats, and I have it up here. The actual movie is only 54 minutes long. It's very short
Yeah,
by
actually,
movie standards.
yeah, and I was just gonna say, like, I believe a traditional movie, even at its shortest, needs to be at least 60 minutes or longer. So I don't know if this could even be considered a quote unquote movie.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
true. I
which is
didn't
kind
think
of
of that. I thought it
debatable.
was I I always considered it a movie, but maybe not. But the good thing is that the two shorts that they do have in this episode are Progress Island USA and Money Talks, and both are pretty funny. The Progress Island USA is all about Puerto Rico,
Hmm.
and oh boy, is it dated. I'll
Yes,
just say that.
very much.
Oh boy, is that
It
short dated.
yes, very much a product of its time, my friend.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and Money Talks is kind of like this continuing trend of very bizarre PSAs about like that they probably would have shown in schools, like personal finance. I know they did like one or two on personal hygiene. There was another, and they did two shorts called Hired, which was about working.
Yes, I do remember seeing both of those myself. And of course, there's Mr. B Natural too, which could
Yes.
indirectly be a horror movie because Mr. B Natural is a very unique character, to say the very
Yeah.
least.
Yeah, that is definitely a short that's kind of gone down in infamy.
Yes, that is true, and has been another beloved character, with another beloved recurring character who we will feature at the very end, as the end of the segment, um, which will be actually our as a. I mean, there's still at least, I believe, 2, 3 ones before we get to that, but I have a funny feeling you might know who it is.
Yeah,
So
I
let's
might know who it is. Yeah,
yeah, so let's just keep it on that. But yeah, like Beast of Yucca Flats, basic premise: guy gets a guy gets nuked by an A bomb, stumbles around as a zombie. Like two kids just happen to randomly come across him. They get away easily. Nothing really like as it happens. Yeah, it's just
yeah,
basically they're just your classic stumbling zombie
and
monster who doesn't really do anything.
wasn't Tor Johnson a Swedish wrestler?
Yes, yes, he definitely was a wrestler. I know that. As for Swedish, I'd have to double check that one. But yeah, like but ironically enough, like kind of the trend of wrestlers breaking into the entertainment
Yeah,
industry. Much like Dwayne the Rock Johnson.
or my personal favorite, Andre the Giant with the Princess Bride.
Yes, yes, Andre the Giant, one of my favorite
Yeah,
actors from that time too, and absolutely loved him in The Princess Bride.
yeah,
I can't.
definitely go watch that movie. That like you don't need to riff that movie. That is a fantastic movie.
Yes, yepers. So continuing onward, we got another uh oh, actually, since we're still on the subject of Tor Johnson, how about another movie that he was also in, an Ed Wood movie, no less, and with Bela Lugosi, Bride of the Monster.
Yes, yes, and this is actually one of the two movies that had the Hired short. It had the first part of Hired on this one.
Yes, yes, that was another reason I picked that one. In addition to the connection with Tor Johnson, because Tor Johnson in that one actually plays his Bela Lugosi's lumbering assistant. And actually, Tor works very well in this one because at least he doesn't really have any lines other than
Yeah.
yes, bastard. Ah.
And
As Bela Lugosi is just really awkwardly whipping him, and you can tell it's just very oddly done.
yeah, and of course, like if you're talking about bad movies to make fun of, you gotta include at least one Ed Wood movie.
Absolutely. And I
Yeah,
think this one could definitely be like one of the best ones for this list because very classic, uh, like monster film. In this case, Bela Lugosi's as a character is trying to create an atomic race of supermen who will one day conquer the world.
yeah, that like as a like one of my honorable mentions that was featured on the like was the Sinister Urge. Like that would have been
Yes.
one of my honorable mentions. But uh, TV tropes perfectly sums up Ed Wood as that rare mix. And I'm reading directly from TV tropes here.
Okay.
Ed Wood was that rare mix of relentless motivation and determination combined with a complete lack of natural talent.
Yes, that is very true. And it's definitely crazy with that. And I just have to say, like, the movie itself is just a real treat. Like,
Yeah,
just really goofy. Like, the police detectives, like, coming around, like, talking to Lugosi and him just. I mean, like, as much as like Ed Wood, like, gets some flag, I will at least say this: like, Bela Lugosi still gives it his, like, best, especially when he
yeah,
says,
yeah,
"Home, I have no home. Those who took it from me, who will pay as I create my atomic race of supermen who will one day conquer the world." I mean, as cheesy as it is, it's still very admirable, like the way
oh
Lugosi
yeah.
still puts his heart into it, which is what I
This
love.
is what I was talking about earlier about like yeah, it's a bad movie, but you can tell Ed Wood put a lot of passion into his craft.
Absolutely. Yeah, he is definitely like a guy that, we love here. I mean, actually the documentary about Ed Wood, or semi-documentary as I would call it, or maybe even more of a historical fiction. Yeah, actually I'll call it more
Yeah,
historical fiction of the movie Ed Wood. Uh, that's one to definitely check out. With
yeah. All
Martin
the I
Landau and Johnny Depp as Ed Wood. Very, very well done. And Martin Landau even won best supporting actor at the Oscars for that.
yeah.
And
That
actually,
is one that I definitely have to check out. I have not watched it, but I have heard. Unlike Bela Lugosi's not Bela Lugosi, unlike Ed Wood's actual movies, I've heard that the movie based on his life was actually very good.
yes, and I highly would recommend that to all of our, as our friends here on Halloween year round, all you Misties tuning in, and just in general, definitely one to highly recommend. I can't recommend that enough, especially when it comes to that one article that I had read up when it talked about the Oscars and on Martin Landau's performance, and it was said very well.
Yeah.
The Oscar goes to Martin Landau. Its shadow goes to Bela Lugosi. And
Yes.
I really love that quote, and I couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah.
So so in terms of like other fan favorites of ours in the horror genre for Mystery Science Theater, The Screaming Skull, which I actually did rewatch recently, and man, that is a goofy one. It is very,
Oh yeah.
very goofy.
Yeah.
Like,
It's been a while since I've seen this one, but I distinctly remember it being very silly.
yes, very, very silly indeed. It's just a very, very goofy one. Basically, the premise is a man loses his wife and he remarries. The second wife is a I think it was, yeah, is it Jenny? Yeah, Eric is it Jenny, and the very creepy groundskeeper Mickey, and that unique triangle that goes on is just crazy.
Remember, folks, if you die of boredom, you do not get a free coffin. Sorry.
That is a Yep, that's right. And actually, that was a a funny segment with Tom Servo calling up just to try to see if he could scam to get that free coffin, which actually is, yeah, that was another thing too. Like you'd be amazed like how many horror gimmicks there were in the theater, not just 3D, but also
Oh yeah,
ones is it was signing is it waivers that if you die, like your family can't sue the theater. Uh, I mean, heck, even uh, Alfred Hitchcock himself basically had a policy for the screening of Psycho that no one was allowed in the theater
yeah, I've heard
after,
this. Yeah,
yeah, after, after, after the movie began, so that, so that way no one would actually spoil like the twist near the end. And I'm like,
yeah,
wow, that was actually very interesting.
yeah. No, I've said it before. I know that you and Dave are the much bigger horror fans than I am, but
Hmm.
even I, a complete noob when it comes to horror movies, I can absolutely respect what horror has tried to do over the years.
Absolutely. And yeah, and yeah, like that's what I mean, I mean, I'm a big fan of classic horror. I also do enjoy some modern horror as well, especially from the 80s and 90s. Like that's
Yeah,
and definitely, oh yeah, and definitely like touching in the 70s too. So like that like that kind of thing. So like I love An American Werewolf in London, A Nightmare as the original Nightmare on Elm Street,
yeah.
and of course John Carpenter's Halloween. Like those are three of my personal favorites. And of course I've even found like new favorites like My Bloody Valentine, for example, which I definitely enjoyed. And even like some of the newer horror films out there like Studio 666, which we've actually
That
have
one I
covered.
Yeah,
um
that one I definitely want to see. I'm a fan of the Foo Fighters. I got a chance to see them back in 2015. They are an awesome rock band.
yes they
Uh,
are.
Dave Grohl obviously has a reputation of not being just a, fantastic musician, but also being one of the absolute nicest people in rock. So
That's
I
wonderful to hear.
yeah,
And I'm very happy to hear that too. So yeah, I hope he actually does more horror movies, to be honest. I definitely like to see another horror project if he ever comes up with it. I think that'd be cool.
yeah,
Okay, then. So we're going to wrap it up with our very last horror themed entry, a beloved Science Theater 3000 episode that a lot of people definitely love and enjoy. Uh, you love him. Love him. The master would most approve. It's Menace, the Hands of Fate.
yes.
Menace.
Uh, your average Joe has never seen a movie like Manos. Uh, like like on a personal level, like the movie itself for me is in my bottom five movies. It's not my least favorite movie of all time, but it's in my bottom five, and it has the honorable distinction of being just the worst put together movie on that bottom five. So like that should tell you like the caliber of like the ones that are lower on the list. Like if I don't even consider this to be my least favorite movie.
Yeah, that's true. And from what I've read too, like, with the background of it, it was someone who dared like a fertilizer salesman to actually like to make a movie on the fly, and he did it.
Oh
It's
yeah,
like it's absolutely terrible, but he did it, and
he did
it
it.
yeah, and it is honestly, like, let me just put it to you this way. Like, this is the movie that is my measuring stick to show to people when it comes to Mystery Science Theater 3000. Like, if you can't get through it, then you're probably not gonna like Mystery Science Theater. But if you like it, then man, like, do I have a bunch of like great episodes to as I share
Yeah.
with you? Because Manus the Hands of Fate is an experience. It really
Oh,
is.
it is. Like I completely agree with you. Like Manos is not my favorite episode. Uh, there's a bunch of episodes I like more, but I will agree with you. This movie is an experience.
Yes. It's definitely one of my favorite episodes, but I wouldn't say it's my absolute favorite. I'll be honest, of everything that I've seen up to this point, I would actually say Danger Death Ray is one of my absolute favorites, but that's more in the spy thriller
Yeah,
genre, which where is it which we can't necessarily have on this list. But when it comes to the horror stuff, definitely Manos the Hands of Fate would be my number one for horror as a horror theme, right up
yeah,
there with Horror Party Beach. They're both great, but Manos is something really special. It's just
yeah.
it's just it brought us not just like like great quotes, but also great recurring characters too. As I had mentioned
Torgo.
earlier, Torgo. I mean, Torgo is still very much a part of Mystery Science Theater, even though like that movie was made so many years ago, and yet he's still a part of it. He still appears periodically, and who knows? Maybe one day we'll definitely see Torgo again in the newest
Oh
episodes
yeah,
of Mystery Science Theater. I would love to see that. Like somehow Torgo like coming to like coming back back to Moon Base 1, because Moon 13 through 15 were inexplicably were destroyed via Kinga and Max
yeah,
in the newest season, trying to escape Jonah's as a trap which he laid out at the end of season 12.
yeah.
So
Now, as a like one more thing I would like to say about Manos before we move on. It's actually one of the few experiments that both Dr. Forrester and TV's Frank apologized for.
yes, that is
Like
true.
they didn't admit it to each other, but they both secretly got on Cambot and said, "Hey guys, I'm really sorry about this week's about this week's one. I know it's bad. Like I know we're supposed to be I know we're supposed to be doing this experiment to you, but I feel bad."
Yeah. Yeah, it actually I think showed like that for Dr. Forrester does have a heart. Even if it's a
Yeah,
little bitty one, it's still there. So that is
he is evil, but he has a heart.
yeah, that's true. Very true. So with that said, that is some of our favorite episodes of Mystery Science Theater 3000. Do you have any honorable mentions for horror themed episodes or?
Yeah, for at least for horror adjacent, we kind of went over some of my other favorites earlier, but uh I like the Sinister Urge and whatnot, but I do at least want to give special shout out to The Brain That Wouldn't Die, which was Mike's first episode.
Yes, that's a good
Uh
one too.
uh and then two season 8 episodes, one being these might be a more horror adjacent, but one being parts the Colossus horror and Overdrawn at the Memory Bank.
Yeah,
And we were talking earlier. I actually got it mixed up. Raul Julia was in Overdrawn at the Memory Bank, not in
yes,
parts. I got that mixed up. That was on me.
that's okay. As a yeah, and I definitely loved Raul Julia's performance in that one. It was weird, but it was very cool to see
Yeah,
him do that. And I consider that more like this like sci-fi dystopian, but at the same time though, there is you could consider. I mean, there might be some
yeah.
horror-esque
That's why
elements.
that's kind of why I said horror adjacent. I wasn't comfortable just saying flat
Yeah,
out horror.
and that's perfectly fine. Although definitely the clones horror I think would be definitely more along the lines of the horror genre. I'll
Yeah,
also give a special shout out to Being from Another Planet. That also that definitely is um like yeah, is alien stalking. So I definitely would consider that a nice horror themed episode. Also very fun as a funny too. So
yeah.
there's my
Now,
recommendation. And the War of the Colossal Beast, the sequel to the quote unquote sequel to the Amazing Colossal Man.
yeah. Now the like my probably my personal favorite episode from the classic era is not a horror movie. Like I just love it. It's called The Sword and the Dragon. Uh, I just like that movie. It was originally from the Soviet Union, I think, and it's actually very is actually shot very well and has very good effects. But unfortunately, when they brought it over to the states, the dub work is bad and it's confusing.
Yes, I've heard very much that of the how legendary like some of the bad dubbing is for that. And for me personally, like my favorite non-horror themed one, as I had mentioned earlier, still goes to Danger Death Ray.
Yeah,
Great cheesy spy espionage film. Is it very much akin to like just a really badly done version of James Bond. It's just everything that I love. Like is it like over the top henchmen, is it toy boats and models being used? Is it with them even commenting as a little Timmy's going to be upset about this boat
yeah,
when he doesn't
yeah.
get his boat back.
And if I can shout out two from their Netflix revival series, Atlantic Rim and Reptilicus.
Yeah, I would definitely say Reptilicus was a favorite of mine. Let's see. Let's see. Time travel. The Time Travelers was also very good.
Yes.
And I have and especially from the newer season from season 13, I am really digging Santo in the Treasure of Dracula. It's like everything that I love in classic mystery science theater. With a nice return of a Mexican wrestler fighting the undead. How can you not love something like that?
I have not seen the new season at all yet, but I do plan on doing it.
Yes, and in a future episode, I would definitely love to have you come back, and we'll definitely talk about Santo and some other horror themed episodes of Mystery Science Theater from season 13, and maybe we'll even touch from seasons 11,
11
11
and
and
12.
12. Yeah, since we primarily focused on seasons 1 through 10 because
Yeah.
that's where that's where like it all began. So
And
we definitely
and
want to do that.
and if I may throw this out there, uh the Mystery Science Theater, at least for the first 10 seasons, I don't know about 11, 12, and 13, but they've always had a policy of keep circulating the tapes, which means that if you do just a slight bit of digging on YouTube and any of the movies you find, movies on the if any of the episodes on this episode intrigued you, go look around on YouTube. You can probably find it.
Yep. And we
That's how
also
that's how I watch most of them.
And we also encourage you out there to like, share, and subscribe to this channel so we can keep circulating the links here. If you don't, you may be hijacked and kidnapped by an evil mad scientist and his as a lackey forced to watch terrible movies against your will and without the aid of robot companions to help keep your sanity. So as I
And
so
then and then, of course, you'll have to escape by going into a box of hamdingers and surviving on those.
because no one likes hamdingers.
Nobody likes hamdingers.
So, do you have a closing thought, John, before I close mine?
Uh, watch the show. I personally think it's great. If you like bad movies, if you like to make fun of bad movies, I think you're going to be in good company here.
Same here, John. Same here. So, this has been John and your pal Patrick. So, and to quote my good friend Dave, every day is Halloween. Keep watching horror films to keep America strong, and push the button, John.
Beep.